Hello. Today we're talking about integration, the hot new buzzword of 2026. We kind of had our thing with manifestation, somatic, and here we are, integration. So, what is integration? Curious if you even ask yourself, what does that even mean to you? Because it means something different, it seems, to like a bunch of different people. And to me, integration means how do I apply what I've learned or my experience into my life? And it's a tricky thing to accomplish. It's not easy. And it's not meant to be easy. Because I think that we, as practices, awakening practices become more trending, they are more trending. You can watch my last video that kind of talks about that and how there's a heightened kundalini and how it's not maybe all that glamorous, and how do we integrate that now into our lives? And so a lot of practices are awakening kundalini, and then it's like, now what? What do I do with this? How do I live my life? I still have to work. I have a family to take care of. And I've seen both ends of the spectrum. I've seen how awakening can disrupt your entire life for the negative. Where some people have completely lost grasp on reality. So integration is so important, and I think it's a subjective topic, but over lots of contemplation and my own experience, I believe that integration takes time. And a lot of people are marketing this embodied experience and lacking the integration part, because integration is not something you can do in an hour or even 30 minutes after your ceremony that you just had. Integration takes years. It does. I'll give you an example. So I have a friend who had a spontaneous awakening. She didn't do any practices. Her awareness extremely heightened, and I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but it's very disruptive. Borderline psychosis. So probably what psychosis is actually, but so you're hearing, you're seeing things, you might be feeling things, you might have left your body. For her, she astral traveled, and which really blew her mind, like out of nowhere. So, and we've talked about this, and for her to be able to integrate, she said it took her 2.5 years. Can you imagine that? So this stuff is not to be taken lightly. So she had support. She had her family, her husband, who is familiar with spirituality. She had some podcasts that she relied on, and some friends, and was able to get through it. And she also returned back to work, so she didn't completely like lose it like some people do. But it with that being said, it was difficult. It was a hard time. She questioned going to, if she was going to end up in a psych ward. I mean, and this is the reality of an awakening. So that's one example. My personal example, I think, was about like a year of integration. I've had different awakenings throughout my life. I've always been kind of different, but I've had different levels of, I would say, awakening. And when my psychic gifts turned on, it was during the passing of my brother. It was after the passing of my brother that I started to see things and have experiences and visitations. And then it started to affect my sleep, and then it just heightens and it kind of snowballs. And I was also grieving during that time and also very confused. The way my brother passed left trauma, so I was also dealing with post-traumatic stress. So it really can disrupt your life. I also questioned going to the hospital. I needed support, extreme support. And luckily I had yoga to fall back on. I went to yoga therapy. I had friends that I could talk to about this stuff. I also sought out a spiritual community of mediums that I could discuss this stuff with, so that you don't fully lose it. And I think that process to fully integrate into my life, the new norm, if you will, of having, also your awareness goes like insane high when you have an awakening, and then it's slowly, you have to kind of like allow it to find its baseline. It might waver like that, and then eventually come back to like this normal state. But then you're still not, you're just a little different, because now you have this other part of you that you didn't know you had before. You're just able to deal with it now versus it being completely turned on and out of control, and not knowing how to control it. It's just like, like a baby being born, and you're like, whoa, what is this world? So it's kind of the same type of thing. It's intense. So it's not something to be taken lightly. So integration takes time. That's just the matter of fact of it. And there's a reason people go to the jungle and have experiences and seek out shamans, because they're not here to monetize and make money and sell, 100 tickets and have 100 people awaken at once and then not being able to support them after. There's a reason why you have to seek out these experiences and go deep, and then have the integration time after that they're able to help you with. They're familiar with this stuff, and they take time, and sometimes you can spend months there integrating and just coming back to baseline, because it's not even like sometimes you're integrating like normal life. You're trying to just find your baseline energetically sometimes after these experiences. It's so heightened. So how do I come back to normal? And then, like, with the support and somebody who's familiar with this to help that process and what to even do. So it's I think there's different levels that, people might have a great experience and be able to go to sleep that night and have, that's great. That's not how it always is. I personally know people who, it takes weeks sometimes after like an intense retreat or a very long, like some type of ceremony. It might take weeks. And then me and my friends' classes, years. So are you going to support the person that you brought through this journey for the next few years? That's something that I think a lot of practitioners need to ask themselves. How are they able to support, and what are they going to recommend for the support if they aren't? Personally, there's nothing better than a yoga practice. It already exists. There's yoga studios almost in every single city. Yoga is a spiritual practice, mind, body, spirit. It's very grounding, so it can help you integrate, and it can help you kind of cultivate what you had that in that experience in a slower succession rate so that you can slowly integrate these states into your life. So, a yoga studio has it all. You come and you practice breathing, breath work. You'll learn breath work. You will learn mindful movement. You will have somatic practices. There is time for silence. There is shavasana. There is community, support. A lot of times could be support groups. There's like-minded people that you can talk to. There's really nothing besides a church that doesn't actually do these practices. That's more of a belief system. There's really nothing like a yoga studio out there. And it's affordable. It's something that you can do daily. It's offered daily. If you're going to go to a therapist, that's an option, but you have to pay more. You're scheduling, maybe going weekly, and it's generally not a practice. It's more, even though I think more are integrating yogic practices in a therapist's office, but the studio has it already, and it's affordable and available multiple times a day. So there's really nothing better. So what I can say is a lot of people are trying to fast track awakening, and with that, there's heightened experiences, psychedelic experiences, breathwork experiences that are having these fast awakenings. But they also are trying to fast track integration, which to me personally, I don't know if that's possible. Love to hear in your comments if you think it is and what you have offered, because sipping on tea is not gonna translate into life. Like, you need a practice, period. And what often happens is when people have these experiences, they feel so high, and it might last a week, it might last 2 weeks, but then slowly their regular life just takes over again. And here we are back in the grind of things, with our monkey minds. And so even though you might have some change in perception and a lot of good can come out of those experiences, a lot of people have profound changes in their life. It's helped them step into spirituality, their own spirituality. It's helped open the door for that. It's helped people find peace. And I don't doubt that there's so much good that comes from a lot of these fast, aggressive, intense practices. But the integration part can then become tricky, because with a yoga practice or a spiritual practice, training the mind, or kind of like harnessing the mind, takes time. It's a habit that we have of being in our mind. So the spiritual practice is going to help us, repetition, time after time after time, develop the relationship that you have with your breath. So it's the breathing that we're doing in class, and then we start to take that out of class. So breathing one time, having one breathwork thing, is not exactly going to translate into your everyday life as if you are coming regularly, consistently, and developing this relationship that you have with your breath, and how you can now in your life, without blowing up your life, learn to breathe and find more ease in your daily life, which is what these practices are supposed to do. They're not supposed to completely disrupt your life, have you leave your family or even your jobs. And if that happens and that was a good thing for you, great. But sometimes it's not, and we just are trying to stay in that blissful space. So having some sort of consistent practice so that we can have that space and that time to develop it and then slowly integrate into your life. It's an arc. It doesn't happen instantly. Okay, so integration, living, applying what you learn to life. So I'm curious to hear your guys' take on what integration means to you.